Hello, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is Sunday night. I'm not going to wait too long tonight to get things up and running. I hope you are all safe and well. I was just trying to get a plug-in to work before going live, but it's not working, so I'm going to have to play with that next week. Anyway, I hope everyone is safe and well. Hello, everyone in the chat. William Tan, Michael, how are you? Prince's FPV Drones, greetings. Allmac FPV, Smags FPV, TS13 FPV, Elmo Hawk, hello Elmo, and Jackal PT, as well as everyone else who's coming in as well. So today, what are we going to talk about this week? Well, there's a few subjects, and they're quite interesting ones, actually. First of all, we're going to talk a little bit about bind and fly warranty. And whilst I've got an iFlight drone here, this isn't going to be specific to iFlight. And whilst I did touch on this last week, it is an interesting subject that I want to talk about. Secondly, we're going to talk a bit about iFlight because there's been a little bit of controversy this week, but Patrick has now cleared it up, and I want to sort of explain my thoughts on that as well. And I'm not saying that Patrick or iFlight was wrong, but I don't think the original approach was the best way forward. However, that isn't happening now, and we're going to talk about that a little bit too, and that is around presets and firmware on bind and flies, because a lot of people are coming into issues. We're also going to talk about a few other subjects. We're going to take a look at this, which is in front of me. This is the I can't remember how to say their name. I think it's SIYI or YII. Let me just find it. Oh, SIYI. I don't know how we say it, but it is their gimbal and camera. I don't know how easy you guys can see it. Let me just go to the overhead. Boom here. Now, this is a rather unique product, and we're going to take a look at it in action a little bit. There will be a full video coming on this in the future, but this is something that, frankly, I am astonished has taken as long as it does, and that is a camera and gimbal combination that is available for your drone. It's not just a camera, it's a gimbal as well. It's a digital camera, it's an analog camera, it has UART, it has Ethernet. It's quite an interesting bit of kit, and we'll be taking a look at it on a here link as well. I'm in the middle of finally getting round to this one. It's taken a little bit of time because I had a bit of a backlog of products to get through, but this one has got my full focus now as well. And actually, it is very, very interesting. It's far from perfect, don't get me wrong. However, it is super interesting. Catching back on the chat a second, we've got someone said the thumbnail is broken. Is it? It should be the YouTube thumbnail. Pass. I have no idea. Let me just click on live. I don't know what YouTube has done about the thumbnail. It should have been right. But yeah, we'll move on to that in a minute. Now, as always, I hope you've all had a fantastic week. If you have any questions, please do put them in the chat and I will try and answer them. Now, super chats are always welcome, but they are not necessary for me to answer a question. We don't have sponsors on this channel or anything like that, so a super chat does help us along a little bit. However, it isn't a requirement. What I will say, though, is the super chat does help your question get seen, but I will keep an eye on the chat and we'll move back to it as well. And today, I'm also going to try and keep an eye on my Discord server, because I do have a Discord server and there is a live chat section, which I always completely miss, me being useless. For those who don't know, there is a Discord. That isn't it, because that's the wrong monitor. 1 second. 1, 2, 3. Boom. There it is. That's my Discord server, and there is a live chat section on there as well, and I will be keeping an eye on that as the stream goes on. Now, I hope you've all had a good week. It has been an interesting week in the sense of there's not been that much going on, but what has been going on has been quite interesting in itself. Now, I'm just going to get my chat back up where I can see it over here. Obviously, we had the Orca news last week and the week before, and I'll be honest, everything on that has settled down very, very nicely now. That isn't to say this subject is over, and I might have a bit of news on that coming at the end of the week. But overall, with regards to the Orca situation, things are seemingly somewhat back to normal. There's obviously a steady stream of people coming in saying, hey, I've had this problem, but they've basically said they're going to fix any goggles people can't fix themselves, and you're not seeing great amounts of posts and comments about it. So as mad as it was, it has all calmed down an awful lot. Now, this week, I've been finishing off my review of that thing, which is the Bamboo X1 Carbon. That is going live, I think, tomorrow on the channel for those who are interested. Those who were watching last week, we had some prints on there as well. And I'll be honest, it is a phenomenal printer. I really have close to zero complaints other than it is a little bit noisy. But there will be a full review coming on that this week as well if you are interested. Now, with regards to this week's subjects, the first thing we're going to talk about is this camera, because I want to get it out of the way because it's in front of me. So, if you don't know what this is, let me get the web page up because it is super interesting, and it is the SIYI or SIYI. I don't really know how to pronounce this. There's me not turning on the camera, but it is the A8 Mini, sorry. And this is their mini 4K zoom camera and gimbal. Now, when I say zoom, it's digital zoom. But it is a camera and gimbal that has 4K resolution, 8K sensor. It has HDMI, CVBS, AV, networking, as well as S-Bus, UART, and UDP connections. Now, the real interesting thing with this is the fact that it is an all-in-one camera and gimbal, and we haven't really seen many of these come out. The only company we've seen make products like this is DJI. If I go to the overhead, you can see it here. So at the moment, it's sort of temporary setup. That is the camera mounted to the unit there. The gimbal, we've got a USB-C port on the front for updating the firmware, SD card slot on the side, HDMI on the back as well as power, and then a UART over here, and there's also an Ethernet port down there as well. Now, it doesn't do 360, just to show you. It does have limits, and I'll be honest, there are a few limitations that don't make a lot of sense. In what I mean by that is, there are points where the gimbal will meet. It does restrict at times, and it doesn't have the greatest of movement. But I'll be honest, it is a super interesting bit of kit, and it even works upside down as well. So just to demonstrate this, I'm just going to power this on. Let me just power up the air unit and the camera, and I'm just going to move it back a little bit so I can bring in the HearLink, which I've got connected. Now, let me just wait for that, and I'm just going to focus that a second just to make sure that is focused. There we go. We'll wait for that to kick in. And what we'll do is we'll just wait for the live feed to kick. It will in a second, and the camera will return to its normal zoom position. Well, there we go. And we're just waiting for the live video to kick in because it is attached to the HearLink. Is the HearLink connected? Let's just have a look. Yeah, so the air unit is now connected. We're just waiting on the camera. I might need to get down here. Sorry, just a bit awkward to press. Is the HearLink actually crashed there? Let me reopen Q ground control. It doesn't always like it when you power it up with the video before the actual unit. The limits are a bit weird. And there we go. You can see it's on the screen. Now, if I just show you, I've pre-programmed this. So, for instance, I can move the camera around on the buttons here. And let me just move them up, dot down. And now it is an autofocus camera. Oh, we want to go down a little bit more so we don't catch that light. I'm going to move myself out the way. It is an autofocus camera, so you can see I can move around to there, that side of the studio, and you can see the monitor there with the light. Sorry, I moved that off screen. So if I move it round, you can see it there. You can see the back side of the studio there. And then if I move it around here, you can see there, and you can see that side there. And then I've also programmed the pitch and roll, so I can pitch it all the way up. You can see the overhead camera there. Now, the super interesting thing with this is the fact that it is an all-in-one unit. There are not many of these kinds of devices around, to be honest. Now, I'm only starting to play with this. It does allow recording 4K 30. It does do still images, and it does okay latency video. And just to give you an idea, you're going to have the Hearlink latency here as well. And there are different latency modes available on the camera as well. It's in normal at the moment. But if I just move my finger, you can see that there is a delay. But I haven't tried it in the low latency mode yet. Hearlink in itself has about 100 milliseconds plus. So this isn't the fastest system. However, at this level, it isn't FPV quad level latency that you're going to have here, put it that way. You know, it's not a second, but it's a few hundred milliseconds, that's for sure. But it really is a interesting product. I'm not going to say it's perfect. I think there are some silly issues with it. And I'll be talking about that in the review as well. But there aren't many things like this out there, and I would love to see more. So I'm just going to put that there so you can see. And as you see, I can control it from the Hearlink, move it around, pitch it up and down, just so you can see there as well. But yeah, it is interesting to see a product like this. And they're really, let's go to the full screen so you can see it. There really aren't that many of them. And I am astonished there are not more. I think for what it is super interesting, and I will be doing a full video on it. It does analog, digital, SD card recording. I think we just need to see the execution to be a bit better. The limits are a pretty big limiting factor on this, but it does stabilize well. You know, it is a gimbal. Let me just go back to the overhead just to give you an idea. So there's me. You can almost, you know, you can see my hand. Let me just move it. Oh, let me move it back to me a bit. And then we want to come up. There we go. So if I'm wiggling my hand side to side, let me just put it on camera. You can see how much I'm moving my hand. And the gimbal is remaining stabilized. Let me just adjust my hand position and tilt it back and forth. But I have to say, it doesn't do a bad job. It really, really doesn't. But I am going to be doing a lot more testing on this. Super, super interesting. Really, really is. So if you're interested in seeing the video on it, please do let me know. Price-wise, this thing is quite astonishing, actually. If you think about it, if I just go back to the desktop, price-wise, it's like $300. And for what you're getting here, that is an awful lot of product. It's a camera and a gimbal. There aren't many products like that out there. I'm just moving the controller out the way, and I'm just going to move this out the way as well, just so I don't damage it. But it is a super interesting product. Just going to put the ground station back on charge as well. But yeah, for the money, I think it is super interesting. But I would like to see the improvements on the gimbal. I think it's not perfect. It needs... the only plain gimbals are pretty much the same price. Yeah, it is. It's a market that we've just not seen expand. Obviously, you've got Gremsy make a lot of gimbals, but they don't make a complete integrated solution. And we've not had many companies do it. And I'm surprised at that. I genuinely am surprised that we haven't. But more testing needs to be done here and now. It works. It's not perfect. I actually like the image quality. Latency is a little bit high, but I think rover use, some plane use, I think it's going to be an interesting option. Ardra Pilot, I'm going to be putting it on a copter, and we'll be testing it on that. Video quality is surprisingly good. It's not 03, but it's not bad. I'll be honest. And in my video, I did a recording off the HDMI onto my capture card. It's pretty good. It's very sharp. Its colors are okay. It struggles in here because I had a lot of light. But I think, yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. So I just wanted to show you that quickly at the start of the video. We will be talking about it in the future. Let me just get rid of that fly on my desk. Okay. Now, just to catch back up on the chat before we move on to the main subjects. We already found out that we can't fly with 30 frames a second in Avatar, so it needs to be 60 frames. Yeah, that's in FPV quads, but plain use, it'll be fine. Hello, ENF. How are you? Would I recommend AM32 firmware? I haven't flown AM32 on an ESC. However, I know a few people who have, and they have zero complaints. And I do fundamentally believe that there are some issues in BL Heli that are what cause some of these ESCs to burn out. And I think AM32 has a huge opportunity to right that wrong. And the fact that it's open source, I think, is a fantastic thing as well. I do need to get on board AM32. I haven't, simply because most of the ESCs I buy or I'm sent are BL Heli. I think it is the express LRS of ESCs. It has massive, massive potential. I think the limiting factor somewhat is the supported hardware, and it's like, it's not like I can just take all of my ESCs and flash them with it and get on with my life. I'd have to buy a SkyStars or one of the other ESCs. I know some are compatible, but it's a bit of a messy thing. You know, you're buying into it, not necessarily upgrading into it. I think it's got huge, huge potential. And again, I will openly say that I fundamentally believe that there is some bugs in BL Heli 32 that results in the ESC getting burnt out in some strange circumstances. There is no good reason at times that the FETs end up going on fire. That is the ESC dumping the FETs open, and it shouldn't happen. I do have SkyStars flight stack with an AM32 exactly. There's a lot of people that are moving over to it, and I see no issues. Genuinely, I don't know of any issues. I haven't watched it much recently, but yeah, it is a very, very interesting one. Here is a gimbal for the air unit. See, that's an interesting subject as well. I saw something on this a little while ago. Here we go. I've seen this before. So this is the gimbal for the DJI air unit. Now, you're obviously going to be able to get O3 in there as well. Or at least a modified version of it. That was a super interesting project, that. Plug and play gimbal, we're talking about $150, which isn't bad, really. Isn't bad, really. Yeah, we talked about it on the live stream, and I could remember that CE2. Yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely an interesting product. So, and look, we're going to see more and more gimbals come up for these ones. Indeed, no issues. So, okay. The next subject I want to talk about is warranty on bind and flies. Now, let me grab a couple. So, look, I'm a big fan of the iFlight bind and fly drones. I'll be honest, I think they are very, very good. I'm just moving my cup of tea out of the way before I drop it. Here we have the Nazgul, which I think this is the Nazgul 03 edition. This thing is frankly phenomenal as a quad. I'm not going to say it is the best basher quad out there, because it isn't the easiest to work on. It isn't the easiest to repair just due to the way it's designed. But this is as close as you can get to a proper off-the-shelf bind and fly FPV quad. It is done just so well. It comes with the 03 air unit, the 03 camera, obviously, and iFlight have done an outstanding job. And we're seeing more and more of these bind and flying drones being released. The IH2, or 3, I should say, which was released, and I reviewed that. Again, shipping with the 03, and we have the 25, which is up there as well. However, there has been a bit of confusion and question marks over warranty, and specifically the warranty for the DJI air units. Now, there has been a few posts on Facebook on the iFlight group of people having issues, and Patrick actually put some responses on this. If you don't know who Patrick is, he's one of the main guys behind iFlight, and he's one of the public-facing people who comment on iFlight, and he's a huge, useful repository of information on iFlight and other products as well. Now, the first thing I want to clear up is this, and this is DJI's warranty policy, because they are not doing anything here differently than they have with any of their other products. And the very basics are of this. No matter the product, DJI will only warrant it in the official country of origin. That is not where you register it, not where you activate it. That is the country that DJI intended that product to be sold to. So when DJI make their drones, their ear units, their remote controllers, all of these products, they have a origin country for that one based on its serial number. So this batch of serial numbers will be designed for the UK, this batch America, this batch for China. They will only honor the warranty if it is a product that has been designed for the territory that it was bought in. So when I buy a DJI drone in the UK, or a DJI Air unit in the UK, whether it be from a dealer or whether it be from DJI, it should be an Air unit that was originally designed to be sold in the UK. I will get my warranty. However, if I was to go on Banggood, AliExpress, and order an Air unit, or a DJI drone, a Mavic Mini, any of these products, the model you're going to probably be sent is a China version. Now, if you have a warranty need on that, DJI are not going to cover you in your home country. They are going to say, sorry, that product wasn't destined for the country you're in. We're not warranting it. This has always been the same. This is nothing new. I've known about this since like 2014 or 15. We've discussed this. I've got videos on this on the channel, but it is something that is quite new to FPV. So there has always been this argument of, while people may say, oh, I can get a Mavic Mini cheaper on AliExpress, you're not actually saving, because if you need warranty, the chances are DJI will either refuse or they will say you will need to pay to ship it to China for them to fix it, and you will need to pay for it to come back. This has always been their policy. Nothing new. Now, it is different to other companies. Many companies offer a global warranty. Apple, for instance, offer a global warranty across the world. DJI do not. They sell a product based on the country they intend it to be sold in. It will be warranted in that country only. It's the same situation if you were to buy a drone whilst on holiday. You would get the same issues. This is why I have always recommended you only buy a DJI product in the original country of origin that it was intended to be sold in. So you either go to an official DJI dealer or you buy it from DJI Direct. Now, the issue here is with regards to bind and flies, because these products, take the iFlight ones, are being manufactured in China. iFlight are buying these Air units in these drones from DJI in China. iFlight are selling these products all over the world. So the question has come, who is responsible for the warranty on this? And the very simple reality is this. DJI will not warrant the Air unit that is in any bind and fly drone. Doesn't matter who the manufacturer is. They will not warrant it unless it was intended for that origin country. So if you were to buy an iFlight drone, that Air unit would only be warranted with iFlight. If you were to go to your local FPV shop and they built you a ready-to-fly drone and they used an Air unit off the shelf that they'd been sent for distribution in the UK, for instance, you would get warranty. But from the likes of iFlight, SpeedyBee, any other companies making bind and fly drones, you wouldn't get the warranty. Now, the proviso to this would be, say, Rotor Riot. Because the chances are Rotor Riot, for instance, would be building a drone with components destined for the USA. So if you were in the US and you bought a bind and fly from Rotor Riot, the chances are when they built that bind and fly, they went to their stock shelving and went, right, we need an O3 air unit, and they just took an off-the-shelf O3 air unit that would have been sold in the US, and if you bought that in the US, you'd get your warranty. The real issue here is the companies buying and selling them outside their origin country. That's the easiest way to think about this. So, iFlight and many others. Now, iFlight do offer a limited warranty on their bind and fly drones. On their website, it says 30 days. As for what happens when the air unit fails, that is an interesting subject, and the situation isn't 100% clear on that. There are people who have had faulty cameras. It seems to be like the gyro sensor isn't working, and they've had to do a bit of back and forth, but they have had it replaced. What iFlight have said, though, is this. When iFlight have replaced an air unit, they are doing so at their cost because DJI won't even accept them back for them. Now, we don't know if that is true. And frankly, that isn't the user's problem. The user wants his warranty service. The person who built the drone is where you would go for that warranty service. And it's down to them, the manufacturer, to then swallow that cost or arrange with their supplier to get it fixed or replaced. As for what your situation is, your stance, or what you're legally entitled to will depend on your country. But the very basic reality is this. DJI are not going to basically cover the air unit in, say, an iFlight bind and fly. They may in bind and flies from your origin country, so companies who make it within your country. But if you're buying one of these, you do need to take this into account. Now, this is a complicated subject because, as Louis just said, don't forget the 3-year warranty, but you've got to take into account if you're buying, say, from the iFlight China store, you're buying outside of the EU. If you're buying from the iFlight European store, their terms say 30 days, but I think they need to revise that because the law is a little bit different. What you got to really understand is what is the situation. Now, if you were in the UK and bought an iFlight bind and fly from a UK dealer, to be honest, it's that dealer who's going to have to swallow the cost. The thing to understand, though, in the end is there is basically no warranty with the manufacturer of the individual components when you buy a bind and fly. You will need to go back to the company who sold you the product, and your warranty is going to be with them, and what sort of warranty coverage they're going to give you is dependent on the kind of company they are. What you can't expect is if you bought a bind and fly that had, you know, a Speedy B stack, a DJI air unit, iFlight motors, to go to each of those companies to get the products fixed. You would need to go to whoever sold you the whole product. Now, this does bring into question, you know, should you buy ready-to-fly bind and flies with O3 air units in? Because obviously iFlight, if you had a problem with the flight stack, should cover you. If you had a problem with the motors, they should cover you. But if you had a problem with the air unit, you may have a bit of argument on your hands. And it is a tough one to say what people should do because these air units are really, really reliable. The chances of a failure are very, very low. And in fact, I'm a firm believer that you only really need a DOA warranty on these. You don't really need a longer warranty because air units don't fail unless you smash them into a wall. And more than anything, what iFlight need to be doing is covering that DOA bit, not necessarily the bit for the next 12, 18 months. And it is hard in FPV because talking about warranty with FPV is a difficult subject. You may crash it on your first flight and break something. Well, that's not the manufacturer's fault. You know, do we really expect these drones to have a 12-month warranty? They are not the kind of... They're not a Mavic Mini. They're not a drone that you're tutoring around with. You know, these products are not designed to be crashed, but they are. In the sense of we all know these are going to be smashed at some point. And what you need to take into account is is a manufacturer really going to want to warrant something if you've crashed it? And it is a difficult subject. It really is. If you're someone that really wants a warranty on a bind and fly product, you should buy it within your local country from a local dealer, even an iFlight one. There are many dealers in the UK and Europe that sell the iFlight ready to flies, the bind and flies, because they will have the legal requirement for the warranty. It is the person who sells it to you, not necessarily the person who makes it. If you're in the USA, it's a bit of a different kettle of fish because the warranty laws in the USA are just bad. Let's be honest, they're not great. The consumer right laws in the US, not remotely as good as the UK or Europe. But if you wanted the best possible protection in the US, literally consider someone like Rotor Riot and the others. Because, you know, Rotor Riot and anyone who pre-manufactures a drone within the origin country. The advantage you'll have to, say, buying a drone built by Rotor Riot is that air unit should be warranted. And look, this isn't iFlight's fault. You have to understand with this warranty, as I said at the start, DJI do not offer a global warranty, period, on any of their products. They do actually on some very high-end commercial ones, which you have to pay for. But on their consumer products, they don't. So in the end, with iFlight, they're left in the position of they're buying the air units in China. Is DJI replacing the broken ones for them? We don't know. Patrick has said no, but it's not for me to get in the middle of that. We do know iFlight will cover people if there is a problem, but what people have to understand is they're not going to cover you for every single little issue on a drone that is designed to be smashed into a wall. And that's the crux of it. Now, just catching up on the chat, because this is a complex subject. Just going down. GMI, 12 months. Pepmint, how are you? Hope you haven't missed much. DJI trying to do an Apple? Not really. Their policy's always been the same. This is DJI's warranty policy. Look, DJI offer more warranty on a product than probably 90% of Chinese-based companies. You've got to understand with DJI, they are an out-and-out Chinese drone or product manufacturer. In China, it is pretty much a given that warranty lasts until the second you've walked out of sight. So the fact that DJI even warrants to the level that we expect in the West is incredible in itself. It is a very different scenario over there. So DJI's warranty policy isn't that bad. It is done to ensure people are buying products in the country of origin, and it will protect you if they are. And they've always been very good. But what they are is no nonsense on this. When you provide the serial number, if you're in the UK and that product was designed for China, they ain't covering it. That's black and white. And it's not to do with activation. It's to do with its original destined country of origin that DJI had decided that should be sold in. Sometimes the EU thing and the buyer's protection laws onto a bad thing. The EU protection laws are phenomenal in the UK and the EU. I did some research because I want to do a video on this, and I've done some research on the USA, and it is a minefield, genuinely a minefield. Sour Sam, how are you? If you break it, you have to buy it again. Makes life easy like that. Yeah. It does. Louis, and then the best solution is not to buy one of those with the O3 unit and buy it from DJI local or EU shop. Yeah, there has been a lot of sort of questions on this of should we see some of these bind and flies be sold just with the harnesses in place without the ear units? I don't necessarily think that's needed. These ear units are ridiculously reliable. There has been a very, very small number of cases here that a person's had an issue, and we don't know the full story. You could, though, look at this two ways. iFlight, for instance, and this applies to all of the bind and fly manufacturers, so iFlight, Rotor Riot, all of these companies, They are building the product. It is their responsibility to warrant it. How they cover the cost of that warranty is their problem and not the consumers. So if iFlight or SpeedyBee or Happy Model or any of the others are making a drone, warranty is their problem, not the consumers. It is not the consumer's problem if DJI won't replace that air unit for them. Frankly, that's not our issue. And they need to wind that into their cost and wind that into the price of the product for the amount of percentage failure that they have. What isn't acceptable is saying, this isn't our problem and DJI won't fix it for us, or DJI are being evil, they won't do it. DJI are selling them the air units. Whatever their deal is with DJI is down to them to negotiate. The user goes to the person who sold them the drone. And that's the basics. An 03 with SpeedyBee stack. Any advice of what? Or just build your own, as Almac FPV has said. And it is an interesting subject. I used to work retail for Maplin in the UK. Our policy is if it breaks, we will fix or replace it, even if it's over a year. You don't have the original receipt. Yeah, Mr. Huggy, Maplin's had a great policy. I remember my laminated Book of Dreams. I have a few old Maplin's catalogues in the loft. And look, we have to understand that the culture of warranty in China is a very different thing to the culture of warranty in Europe. And the fact that Chinese manufacturers are offering reasonable warranty in itself is quite a miracle. We are used to having Western level of warranty. Now, in the end, look, I'm not going to say iFlight have been perfect, but I 100% get their position. My response to it, though, is, frankly, what your deal with DJI isn't the user's problem. You need to wind into your warranty policy and your costs enough to cover any broken air units as a result of DOAs. I think what's very fair to say is the air unit will be replaced if it's DOA and no more. And look, that's the situation. So, to summarize, DJI do not have a global warranty. They will only warrant the product in its original country of origin. Most bind and fly manufacturers based out of China will be using components from DJI destined for China, and as such, if you were to contact DJI for warranty, they will not cover it. They will tell you to return to the person who sold you the drone. It is then down to that company to handle the warranty. What DJI does with that company isn't your or my problem. At the end of the day, what you're looking for is your drone fixed. But you also need to be reasonable and fair and understand that these kind of products are not going to have the same kinds of warranty than you get, say, on a Mavic Mini, an Inspire 3 or something like that. They are designed to be crashed, and that manufacturer is going to question you a lot to understand what is going wrong. If you want to buy a bind and fly with a warranty on all of the components, then I would suggest you either buy it from a local retailer or from a company that manufactures it in your home country. For USA users, the likes of Rotoraya is a great example. Get FPV and others. If they're building them in the country, the chances are they're using components destined for that country, because where else would they get them from? And as a result of that, you're probably going to have a warranty. This really is only an issue for products manufactured in China and shipped out into the rest of the world. And that summarizes it. And I'm not saying for 1 minute anything that iFlight is saying or doing is wrong. I have seen some good warranty experience from iFlight, and I've seen some bad. So I think, could they do more? Yes, 100%. But they're not terrible, and I think you've just got to look at it on a case-by-case basis. They could use the IMU to detect crashes. Yeah, look, it's complicated. And look, this is a problem. And if we take iFlight, okay, iFlight are now becoming a victim of their own success. And this will lead us on to the next subject as well, nicely, because they are struggling They have sold so many of these products. They're getting a lot of warranty requests just because of the nature of selling so many products. And they're obviously having to learn and grow with that as well. Rumbleist has just said a really interesting product. Or buy the analog version of the quad and then slap in an 03. Yes, the only problem is with that, many of the frames for the 03s are different. That was 100% a valid point on the previous generation. DJI repaired the 03 I cooked after shipping it to the US, bought from Get FPV. It was only the return shipping I paid. Yeah, it is interesting, Wes. They seem to be having a different policy with the likes of iFlight than they do people who buy it in another country. So, and what Wes has just explained is what I've seen in the past. So, if you were to buy a product in another country, you would have to pay the postage. Okay? Yourself. However, with some of these bind and flies, DJI seem to be saying, no, we sold that air unit to iFlight. You need to go and talk to iFlight. So there does seem to be a little bit of a difference here. And we're not sure. Is Rotor Riot warranty good? You don't get to know. Nicely played. Nicely played. I think Rotor Riot have a lot to lose if they don't offer a good warranty. I've not heard anything bad. I'm not the greatest fan. I have no issues with Rotor Riot at all. I have only a limited experience and they were very good. I really don't think there's a reason to say it's bad. I don't think there's a great reason to say it's good. What I would say, though, with Rotor Riot is they are building drones in the USA, and I would expect them to be just going to their shelf and going, you want an Avatar drone? There's the Avatar Air unit. You want a DJI drone? There's the DJI Air unit. And as a result of that, you're going to get one which was destined for that origin country. Yeah, I think Wes's experience was very much what I would have expected, and I said at the start, was they will ship it, you will have to pay the shipping. Whereas with iFlight, they seem to be doing something a little bit different, but that could just because of the volume iFlight are buying them in. And look, this isn't particularly unusual. I work in industries where you often buy what we call factored products. So you're buying them from a manufacturer with no implied warranty. It's on you. You're getting them at a cheaper price, but you're handling the warranty. We don't know what the deal is. But yeah, so that's the situation. Now, this does lead nicely onto iFlight and their presets. Now, there has been a bit of hoo-ha this week. And let me just bring up Facebook a minute. And let me just get this in the position I want it. And there has been a bit of hoo-ha. And I made some comments on it as well. Let me just try and find it. Now, I don't know if that original post has now been removed. Interestingly, I think it might have been. Because I'm not seeing. I think it's gone. Anyway, we'll have to go with the new post. Because I think the original one has vanished. So, Patrick from iFlight has put a post up talking about the presets. Now, it's hard for me to give you the background on this because it looks like the original post has vanished. I can't see it. But But the basics were, and just to explain it before we come back to this, that Patrick said iFlight were basically going to remove all of their presets on GitHub and basically say users will now need to contact iFlight support to get their presets or CLI dumps. Now, the reason for this was fairly simple. iFlight are getting hammered on support from people buying drones like this. And the first thing they're doing is connecting it to Betaflight and going, oh, it's not on the latest version. I'm going to flash it. The problem many new users don't fully understand is by flashing it, you lose all of the presets, the settings, the CLI, and you then have a drone that won't work. So the basic issue here is new users buying a quad, updating the firmware on Betaflight without really understanding the implications that has, then not understanding enough to be able to rebuild it, and then hammering iFlight support. Now, this is largely as a result of just how popular these drones have been. I completely understand this is a big issue for iFlight. I really do. However, what I didn't agree with was the basic premise that instead of doing something, a way to stop people doing that update, we're going to remove all of the presets, which will hopefully put people off. The problem I had with that was they don't know those presets are there in the first place, so why would removing them stop them trying to flash it? If they knew those presets were there, then they wouldn't have a problem resetting the quad back up. If they understood about the presets and the files, they wouldn't have a reason to contact you. So removing the presets and putting a wall in the way, i.e. contacting support, was just a nonsense approach to fixing the problem. And I put my post on talking about it. A number of other people put a post on there as well. I actually have a copy of my post on my Discord server. It'll be there from a few days ago as the original post has vanished. Let me see if I can find it. And my stance was really simple. If iFlight were doing this, I ain't reviewing the products anymore because I think it's a nonsense way to fix the problem. And I 100% agree that it is a problem. I am not saying it isn't. I'm just trying to find the original post. Here we go. Nearly there. Now, how we solve this, I don't really know for sure. You know, here's the original post. So this gives you an idea of what the original post was. So it says, so guys, I'm pretty sad to announce I just deleted my iFlight factory presets from GitHub repository. It caused me a massive amount of support work every single day, which I just can't cope with anymore. We get that. Beginners watch half a YouTube video, flash new firmware with the wrong target, throw on the wrong preset, brick their FC, and get mad because I or iFlight don't have the time to debug and guide them through the whole process. If presets are not available anymore, hopefully people will think twice and go fly before bricking and unbricking their new quad. For now, Betaflight dumps so-called diffs can be requested through support channels as emergency rescue. Now, I don't agree for 1 minute that removing the presets fixes the problem. If they knew about the presets or the CLIs, you wouldn't have the problem in the first place. The problem is people buying new quads, not understanding how Betaflight works, and trying to flash them. So, anyway, there was a whole amount of hoo-ha on this, and iFlight have now changed their stance on this. I put a post on this saying, frankly, I think this is nonsense. That was partly my response. I had updated it a bit more than that, but I basically said, I just said it's unacceptable. I don't agree that removing the presets is the right thing to do. This is not the kind of thing that helps users, and I can't condone it. And look, it was that. But anyway, what's important is they are now going to be putting in a new process. We don't fully understand it yet, but the original preset branch is gone, but it will be coming back. And they're going to be putting guides together on what and how you need to do. And the users will have a much better support set of guides in place on what to do moving forward. Now, for me, the real problem here is really simple. People need to stop updating the firmware on bind and flies when they get them. A very simple thing I can say is it does not matter if your bind and fly comes with old firmware. It is coming with what the manufacturer suggests is best, i.e., it might be 4.3.1. Just use it as it comes. You do not need to update it out the box unless you have a very specific reason to do so and you understand all of the ins and outs. I think me and others as KOLs, I don't use that term lightly, but in reviews moving forward, I will be stressing you should not update this out the box, period. I haven't done that on these two reviews. I think, but I will be stressing your drone comes ready to use. You do not need to update this. In fact, you should not update this. You should fly as it is. But I also think iFlight need to do better as well. I think iFlight need to put more stickers on the drones. They need to put a card in the box that says, do not update Betaflight. Frankly, if I was them, I'd disable the USB port. I'd turn off the MSB USB port. And then people can get around that if they want to. But I disabled USB. I do believe there's going to be a version of a configurator possibly that will hopefully help this as well moving forward. It is an annoying issue in Betaflight. There's no question that it is frustrating that you flash Betaflight up to version and it will just set it back to complete factory. It would be great if there was more warnings in Betaflight to stop this stuff happening, but the reality is we don't have it today. What I couldn't condone is taking everything offline and making users jump through hoops to get them. We aren't in the same position today we were a few days ago, but hopefully we will be. Wes makes an interesting part. I'm not sure a do not update approach is better than let's remove all the presets. Yeah, I think, to be fair, Wes, I think with regards to iFlight, I think their tunes are pretty good. I'm not sure there's a great need on these, but it is difficult. All your settings get wiped and update. Agreed, 100%. The main issue here is all of the settings get wiped and update in Betaflight. That's the bonkers element to this. Every JB video says backup or dump every. Surely folks have watched one if they know how to update. I'm not convinced, and I think people hear what they want to hear as well. It's hard. You know, it is really hard. And look, if I'm being blunt, this is an iFlight problem and a Betaflight problem. It's an iFlight problem because of their success, and they need to put the support in to ensure that users get the help they need, even if they've done something wrong. But also, Betaflight needs to be better on this. There's no question. I think the simple advice in the short term, though, is if you buy a bind and fly, don't update it. You don't need to, unless you have a reason. iFlight could create a new target with presets. Yeah, I think the problem becomes is, I think the only easy way for iFlight to solve this is their own configurator, a fork of the main configurator. That would be a simple, because it could then only show their drones, and then you would just select their drone and the model and then click flash. But look, it's not an easy problem to fix. I think it's a hard one. I think the people is the people who literally blind update and go, oh, it no longer works. Now, I don't particularly like how they handled this, I'll be honest, and I told them that. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't impressed. And if they had taken it all offline permanently, I'll be honest, I'd find it hard to review the products moving forward, because at the end of the day, a user should have the ability to recover their product without contacting support. Having to open a ticket is complete and utter nonsense and is not acceptable. It's just not acceptable. But we're not there today. That's the thing. BetaFlight configurator already auto-detects targets. Also warns if the target doesn't match. Yeah, the issue is, but, you know, if you take iFlight, here's another issue. iFlight stop using generic flight controllers, I mean their own generics, and build a flight controller per bind and fly. So you have a specific controller for the Nazgul. Therefore, the target is then for that. And I'm not saying I wouldn't recommend ever update. And I think in reviews, what I'll be saying is, look, this drone comes ready to go. There is no need to update this out the box. If you do, you will lose the settings and presets, and you will need to manually set this back up. And my personal advice would be, unless you know exactly what you are doing and you are able to do this without any support from the manufacturer, then don't do it. That would be my term. But you would need a specific target for each bind and fly. It's a tough problem to solve. It isn't an easy one. And look, I didn't like the direction iFlight went, but I understand the problems they're facing as well. It isn't a simple issue. BetaFlight was never designed for this audience. They could do specific targets, but that means they'd have to be in BetaFlight. The simple answer potentially is their own configurator. And then if you had their own version of the configurator that pointed at specific places to get the targets, that would make their own support easier, because they could just say, download this and use this and it'll flash. Ken Walters says, what I find frustration is if you buy a bind and fly and then go to the manufacturer support page and there's no dumps. Yeah, I agree. Unacceptable. Every bind and fly manufacturer should list their dumps, CLIs, or presets, whichever one, on their website or links. It is not acceptable to sell a bind and fly and not provide the tune. They could just pay JB to make a setup video and send out the links. It isn't as simple as that. It's not the process that's the issue. It's the right details. It's not how people do it. It's what they're trying to do. Multiple different flight controllers, multiple versions of those flight controllers. Look, this is as much a problem of their own making as anything else. If you look down the stacks for, I don't know, the diatone stacks, the V1s, the V2s, there's so much complexity in the target list in BetaFlight. There's so much complexity around it. I think the simple thing is if they had their own configurator and they just go there, download this, select this drone, it will flash it back to what it should be. Done. That's probably the simplest way forward. I can't really deal with a mandatory. Yeah, I think it's not a bad thing for people who want to bind and fly, because it's not going to be mandatory anyway. I think what would be a nice way forward for them is to have a configurator that is limited in the options it gives, and it has only their manufacturer's drone. So if you imagine, instead of having the flight controller target list, you'd flick down and it would be, you know, the iFlight Nazgul V2 03 edition. And then boom. That's it. Yeah, I think they could hire a dev. Yeah, I suppose the problem is the BetaFlight was never made for commercial use. Look, let's be open and honest. The Betaflight devs, and I don't know what their stance is. I haven't spoke to Sugar K or any of the others. But their attitude could quite rightly be, and I don't blame them for 1 minute, and I somewhat agree, we make open source software for racing drones. These manufacturers are profiting off the back of us doing that. Why are we going to help them? Unless they give us money. So I do understand where Betaflight may stand. And I'm not saying that's their attitude, but they would have, you know, they have every right to have that attitude. You know, this isn't paid software. And if they want it changed, then they should pay for it. There is a very logical stance there. I think it would be fair to say Betaflight have every right to say that. So, is this the problem of manufacturers using free and open source software? Look, Wes will know. Is the main issue lack of education? I feel a huge one with Betaflight when you go to update the firmware. Yeah, I think Betaflight absolutely need to do better on this. 100%. 100%. Are you sure you want to do this? Doing this, this warning could say, doing this will remove all settings from your flight controller and you will be required to set it up again from scratch. If you have a bind and fly drone, your manufacturer's configurations will be lost and you will no longer be available. There is no question Betaflight can do better on this. But what I'm not sure is if we can sort of say Betaflight should update Betaflight to make it easier for bind and flies. A real nice approach there, what Dennis just said, seems like a mandatory backup before the update. A backup and restore option simply in Betaflight would be amazing. So it backs up everything before you flash. And if there's a problem, it is nice and easy to re-flash back to that. So a dump of the existing controller and settings. A complete just dump of it. And then just ability to go, well, it's no longer working. Keep the last 10 flashes. Re-flash back would be good. Yeah, just the last 10, let's say. Look, let's be honest. If it takes a dump of the controller, it's not going to have any great size. Betaflight could store the last 10 flashes as a history to dump back to. Maybe a full backup of the flash. Yeah. So, agreed. Not necessarily the configuration, but literally take a dump. We have the same issue on Hydropilot. Most of the time you have to convert parameters or more. Yeah, I agree, Louis. I understand that problem, but the problem here isn't necessarily that. The problem here is people blindly going in and doing it and then not knowing how to go back. It is completely understandable that when you move forward, you have that problem of new settings, new presets, new, as Louis has said, new params. The issue here is once users have done that and realized that they don't have a way of going back, then they're stuck. Whereas if they had a button that was restore the last, dates when you did it, restored to that config, boom, it's back. A full restore flash, you could even restore iNav. Agreed? Yeah. A complete read of the flash, a complete raw read. Doesn't matter what the settings are, just do a raw read of the flash. Even the Queen or the King. Problem solved. Tell iFlight to send us the bribe money instead, Ian. And look, it's a hard one. It's not an easy one. And look, there are many problems with many open source software. Over the user today struggling with Express ELRS. Where's? Fix it. I still think there's work to be done there on out-the-box use. you know, the whole binding phrase thing is a bit difficult for people still. I still wish there was a button. I still wish there was a button. I love the binding phrase, but for new users, I still wish there was a button. Although you do have the power on and off 3 times, I still wish there was a button. Yeah, I think, you know, I think new users do still struggle setting up Express LRS. The binding phrase is phenomenal for people who know what they're doing. But for new users, it's a bit difficult because they've got to connect to the configurator. And depending on what firmware is on the receiver, if you're going to connect it to Wi-Fi, people still have trouble connecting to Wi-Fi to be able to put the binding phrase in. I still think it would be great. Here is what I would love to see. A way with Express LRS that you go into the transmitter, you tell it to search for a new receiver. It picks up a receiver that currently isn't bound to anything, and you have the ability for them to communicate and link. So this could only happen on a receiver which has never been bound, or is in the Wi-Fi mode. Let's say when it enters that Wi-Fi mode. So when it enters that Wi-Fi mode, and it just then becomes visible that then you go into the configurator for Express LRS, into the Lua script, click search, it would then show, and you say, I want to connect to this. And it should do it. For me, it should do it always in the Wi-Fi mode. And then it just goes booming in. I love the binding phrase. I think it's phenomenal, but for new users, there is a challenge there on Express LRS still. Bang, bang, bang with the power plug and it binds. Yeah, people struggle with that still. People do struggle with it. Mo Blades, a little bit behind the chat. They should power up and double flash right now. Manufacturers often screw it up with their QC process when they flash binary flash, you know. Yeah. I think that's the only thing I think Express LRS still lacks is a very easy out-the-box way to set it up. I'm not saying it's hard, but because there isn't a button, I would, you know, it would be just better for it to, whenever it's in Wi-Fi mode, also be in a binding search mode that a transmitter can receive it, communicate, negotiate, unlock. Yeah, I do agree on the buttons. Yeah, just really simple as when it enters Wi-Fi mode, so after the 20 seconds, it also is chirping a binding phrase. If it doesn't have one already, or even if it does, it chirps that binding phrase, and then you can choose to bind to it. So, if I think of the logic here, a receiver that doesn't have previous binding enters the Wi-Fi mode and then creates a binding phrase and chirps, so a transmitter can then pick that up, negotiate, store the binding phrase, and done. If it does already have a binding phrase, it will create a temporary one, like your Apple iPhone, chirp that. If then a transmitter agrees to communicate and connect, that temporary one will then overwrite the existing binding phrase and become permanent. That way, you're not chirping a current binding phrase, and you have the ability to auto simply bind without doing it any other way. And now Mr. Vardy has left the chat. And now Mr. Vardy is going, no. Mr. Vardy's going, what is this fool talking about? Hard to discuss via YouTube chat, but I think you're solving a solved problem in a different way. Yeah, I think that's where the logic would be in my head. I think it could be a little bit easier. Anyways, that's on that. So, if you got any questions, please do put them in the chat and let me know. Yes, could adopt the transmitter's binding phrase. Yeah, agree. That could be good. So when you put the transmitter in binding, what if the binding phrase was a few words to yell at your drone transmitter to get it to bind? Yeah. Have I missed the CE bit? Yes, at the start of the video. One of the first things I did, my friend, Scott Aero. It's only a touch. There'll be a proper video coming on in the future, but I did talk about it a little bit. It's fine as it is. I have to say, I do love the binding phrase. For once you're used to it, because the great thing is, any new quads I set up, I literally just go into the configurator, flash it, and it just works. That is phenomenal when it works. But what you do get is some people with new builds where they can't flash. It's not communicating. Has anyone ever had interference with Walk Snail VTX and Crossfire interfering on a copter? I am aware of potentially some issues with Crossfire and Avatar and O3. Yes. You want to put some separation in. How do you solve them? DJI recommended you don't use Crossfire, or keep it below 100. Or what hertz are you using? Try it on 50 hertz and see if it's any better. Crossfire over-the-air update is great when it works. I have had issues. Hangtime FPV, try it on 50 hertz and see if it's any better. No difference at 50 hertz. Probably needs more separation. Unfortunately, you might need a bit more. I have had some issues with the Crossfire one. There were people it would just keep, every time you powered it up, it would want to update. Some people had it, some people didn't. I've had an Avatar and I've not updated and I don't need to fly with my phone connected. I'm planning on purchasing a bind to fly. Will I need to update EMA FPV? Chances are no. There is no reason a new ear unit will not bind the goggles on older firmware. You should be fine. What I would say is the ear unit will probably come with older firmware anyway. Even if you do the update, it may whinge at you. It should work. Any news on the Orca debacle? I did mention it at the start. It's all quiet, but I might have some this week. 30 frames a second only? Question mark. Crossfire RX is bound to look for transmitter and binding mode immediately at startup. Seems to work. Yeah. Yeah, it does work well. The OTA updates is phenomenal. I would love to see that on Express ELRS. Genuinely, I would love to see OTA updates. I would love, here's what I would love, a brand new receiver to be searchable, connect, update the firmware, and then work just like that. You will need some separation with Crossfire, though. Now, I'm just going to quickly catch up on the Super Chats. And there we go. Caught up. All very well. If there's any other questions, please do put them in the chat and we will try and answer them. Radio Master receivers are very good, Louis. You'll have no problems with any of them. Just ordered a Fusion. Bored of all this digital crap. Be in the post there. There's nothing wrong with the Radio Master ones. They're very, very good. They are very, very good. Some of the best ones from a crystal oscillator point of view as well. RP1 and RP2 are fine, Louis. You'll have no problems at all. Although I did burn one out. Why 3 models? You had originally the basic model. So if we look at the Radio Master ones, radiomaster.com. So they did change their models a little bit in. So if we go to receivers. So are you talking about RP1, RP2, and RP3? Is that the ones you're talking about, Louis? So we've got the RP1, which is the one with the external antenna. So, yeah, you got RP1 with the external antenna. RP2 has the built-in tower antenna. I'm not a big fan of these receivers. Doesn't matter who buy. I don't really like the tower antenna. I prefer a receiver with an external antenna, but this has the PCB tower antenna. And the RP3 is the dual diversity model. Genuinely, I would go with the RP1. The RP1 is fine. The RP1 is absolutely fine. The other one's diversity, which we've not really... Look, I haven't actually tried the diversity ones yet. I'm looking forward to trying them. Yeah, a lot of people... I just don't like the tower antennas. I never have. It's nothing to do with the Radio Master. I just, to be honest, I like a proper antenna on a quad. I just like a proper antenna. Got 2 of each from the EU shop. Yeah, look, you'll be fine. The thing with the tower antenna, Louis, is obviously the antenna's in the frame, so you're going to struggle a little bit from that. It's okay on small quads on a field, but yeah. What's up, hey mate? How are you? I hope you're well. I use all 3. They have their place. You won't go wrong with 2 of each. The diversity one will be the one for the long range. Just catching down on the chat. Yo, Glor FPV, how are you? Oh, thank you, my friend. There's the missing super chat. What's up? If you don't know who he is, he's a fantastic guy. I was going to say something then, but he might not want me to. He is a stand-up gentleman. He's more than a gentleman these days, but he is a fantastic individual. We need to have a catch up, my friend. It's been a while. We need to let's have a phone call this week. It's been a while. Let's have a proper catch up. Do I know where I can find the PIDs for the Recon 4? I don't. Are they not on the manufacturer's website? I am still looking at getting in I'm probably going to have to order one because I can't get them to respond to me. But I am still looking at trying to get one of these. Do I know where I left my car key? Usually in the bowl, isn't it, Sean? If you don't know who Sean is, Geeksvana, he had a terribly controversial video on a company. Were you there this weekend, Sean, or is it next week? I am. We need to catch up after you do that. I don't want to talk about the person because I don't want to drag his nonsense into here. Could I do some thermal video of the HD0 goggles? I would like to see what the hot parts are. I'd have to tear them down to do it properly, but I can do the external stuff. But yeah, it is, as I understand, from my understanding, it is the main DiviMath chipsets. You're undercover. Did he see you? I'm intrigued. What's the law in the UK regards analog transmission? 25 milliwatts. But I can definitely do some video on the thermals. The boards get very, 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 very hot. The DiviMath boards. If you think about the receiver module, do you know what? That's an interesting video in itself. Let's do that. I like that. Thank you, mate. I'm still waiting to try and look at the GEP RC quad. Was what I was trying to say. This is still a quad I am desperate to try. I am hoping to get my hands on one. It's looking like I'm going to have to buy it. But I am still super interested in taking a look at the Cinelog 35. I believe this is a phenomenal quad. And I really fancy taking a look at this one. I'd love to talk to GEP RC, but they don't respond to my messages. Will the ham file work on the O3 internal storage? The cat father. No. It goes on the goggles. There is no mod for the O3 air unit on its storage. The mod is on the goggle. And it's the same for digital. Yes, it is. No, what's my tattoo say? Hello, Ramdunko. The GEP RC Mark V is the best quad I've ever built. Stable and precise. Love your rips, Glora FPV. Was asking, as the SD card from the goggles was formatted, but still having 8 channels of 40 megs. Right. Once you've done the mod, it'll stay. You don't need to leave the file on the card. The file, once it's done it until you reset the goggles. You don't need to keep the file on the goggles to keep it going. I was making a dude with my card joke. Can a NISTA version of the Nazgul Evoque be converted to O3? Absolutely. It will be a different wiring harness, and you're going to have to see if the camera fits in the plates. Remember, the O3 camera is 20 millimeters. It's wider than most of the 19mm cameras. Have I seen the GEP RC 7-inch crocodile? No, but we can have a look. So we're looking for... Ooh, this is new. So we have the Crocodile 75 version 3. Wow, not seen this yet. All on pre-order. So we've got an O3, an Avatar, a HD Wasp, and an Analog V3 version. Wow, that looks an interesting quad. Look at that. That is very much like what we've seen from other manufacturers with the side plates, with the protection. We've got that front end. Wow, that looks nice. That looks really, really nice. O3 air unit in the back. Antennas really up back. Nice, we've got protection on the cables. I like that. That's a good looking quad. What are the other pictures? Showing it with a GoPro. I'm guessing there's a GPS at the back. I haven't seen yet. There it is. There's the GPS. So there we are. There it is. So you got the battery connector there. GPS there. And the antennas on the SMAs there. It's a long quad, as someone has just said. It does look very long. That is long. Look at the length on that. You got the stack there. These look like renderings. It doesn't look like real pictures. I think the GPS will be fine. I think with these antennas with a bit of stretch, I think they'll be fine. Obviously, these antennas are on SMA pigtails. You're going to have pigtails on here. That is a very, very interesting quad. When we look at pricing, let's have a look. If we go for TBS, we're talking 774. It's an expensive quad, that's for sure, but it's a long flight time, 12 to 30 minutes, depending on the battery. So they're recommending a 6S 2600 or a 6S 6000 lithium ion. 2600 to 4200. The big problem I've had on a long range recently is actually finding batteries. BL Heli 3241 ASC. Just scrolling down, seeing what else they got to say about it. That is an extended frame. They even call it an extended frame. That is a nice looking quad. I still want to try the Cinelog. Definitely still want to try the Cinelog. Right. Okay, just to catch back up on the charts. Props in. I'd reverse the GPS antenna mount. Yeah, quite interesting. Which digital system do you suggest for Chimera long range currently using the iFlight 1.6 analog VTX? It's a combination between O3 and Avatar. Avatar does not have a range limit. So Avatar does not have a limit on how far you can fly. DJI does. But O3 will do 23 kilometers. So let's be honest, I don't think you're going to fly a quad 23 kilometers. So I'm sort of inclined to say O3. But if you want Avatar, you can go Avatar. The real difference is Avatar doesn't have a physical limit. DJI does of 23.4 kilometers on O3. But are you going to get to 23.4 kilometers? Rodney Edwards, iFlight should just stick a backup disc of presets, either 5.25 inch or 3.5 inch floppy is fine. I fully agree. Wow. Danny Flatland BMX. Wow, those prices these days. Quads are expensive now. Correct. Would a Nazgul Evoke F5D be a good first quad for beginners after 50 hours on the simulator? It's a bloody good quad. Yeah, I think it's an expensive quad. It's a very good quad. It's got an awful lot of power, an awful lot of mass. But I don't think you'll go too far wrong. 4,200, that's like half a kilo. RC Ritter FPV, no action cam with a huge battery in 03. Good enough for most. Agreed. Lithium-ion batteries are easy to create. Agreed. Yeah, they're not hard to do. You could just build the cells. I've been building my long-range packs. Yeah, that's something I'm going to have to do for the next long-range I do. How many amps can I safely charge a 100C LiPo? Depends what the amp rating is of the LiPo. I personally charge at 1C. I very, very rarely charge above 1C. Maybe 1.5 at times. I do not do fast charging. It just costs the risk. Sometimes 1.5, especially if it's like a 1.5 amp hour pack, I'll charge at 2, but most of the time I charge at 1C. I just don't. 2C, Craig says, agreed. 2C isn't bad. 1C, 2C is fine. Always been charging at 2C, 2C. Failsafe, play the Drone Fest vid. I will have you sent it to me and I'll put it on before we finish. But I'm there watching it. Yeah, 3C I'd definitely be watching. Does it make sense to convert a Diatone MXC Cinewhoop to a Cinelog 35 4S? It's hard to say. I'm not an expert on Cinelogs. I just really want to try that quad. It's really, what are you trying to get out of it? What's the reason for the upgrade? The Cinelogs are very, very good quads. Falcarad and I build our own 21700s. Yeah, they're good sized batteries and 18650s mostly. Yeah, I'm going to get in. Do you know what? I've built many packs over the years, but it's been a while. Getting 21700s isn't easy in the UK. I've struggled to find 21700s in recent times. The last time I tried to find them, 21700 cells. The last time I tried to find them in the UK, I struggled. Fogstar are a company that do have them. So what we got here. So here we are. If we look at, say, this, what we got. 4200s. So we've got $8.99 for 4200s at 30 amp. So they're not too bad. Maximum discharge is 30 amp. It's a bit close because we're not paralleling these up. But we should be okay. But it's a little... Markle of Access, we use those. These are the monocells. Not bad, you know, $8.99 a cell. Money cells are rated at 45 amp. Okay, that's interesting. We do have their 4500s, 35s. So, yeah, look, Samsung's 25s, 35s sold out. Yeah, I think they're okay. They have refurbished safe stuff themselves, called you like new. Yeah, Folkstar are a company who in the UK, I don't know if I don't. They seem to be like one of the main battery suppliers in the UK. There aren't that many over here. Battery101.co.uk. Monocells P42 flats, again about the same price. Is about as good as it gets for reasonable pricing. P45B is good but expensive. Yeah, I think you're right. The P42As. Folkstar pretty good. Yeah. Craig, which is the one? Folkstar or Battery 101 is where you buy yours? There's not that many places in the Folkstar, yeah. There's not that many places in the UK selling them. There really isn't. It's surprising. Samsungs don't have a great rating for our test, but not bad for the 18650s. Interesting. Yeah, it's one of those things I need to do. You might be able to buy in bulk and save. It's one of those things I need to finish the 6S build, actually, and then build a battery pack for it. I do like the look of that GEP. That's a nice looking quad. What size motors was on that? I didn't actually look. Was it? What are they? Equipped with 2806s. Now, I haven't actually finished. Let me just grab it. This was my Chris Rosser build that I never actually finished because I got sidetracked on about 8 other things. But this was my AOS 7 build, and I need to finish this. And what did I go with on this? I can't remember motor-wise. These have got the Eco 2s. These are the 2807s. But I might use those Folkstars on this. So I just need to get this finished now. As a long-range build. It's a big quad. It's basically ready to go. Flight controllers in. Everything's wired. It just needs GPS and a few other things. But that, I'm probably going to go for a lithium-ion pack on that. It is one thick beast. It's a big old frame. A big old frame. But yeah, I'm going to probably go lithium-ion on that. Glow FPV. So, what GPS? What GPS do you like? All of the M10s are pretty good now. They really are. There really isn't a bad M10 one out there. Right. What could be the reason for the quad making the start melody ESC twice? Is every motor doing it twice, or is it just 2 of the motors are delayed? You can often get a sync issue. So it's not necessarily all of the motors doing it twice. Because remember, you will hear that noise from all of your motors. But they do it in sync usually. So they all sound the same. But what you could have is the delay between 2 of the ESCs for some reason. The M10s, all of the M10s seem really good. All of the M10s seem really good. Right, before I finish this one up, I'm being bullied by Failsafe to show you the video for the upcoming Drone Fest this year. It is coming in late August. I am hoping to be there myself. I'm just sorting out some family stuff because we always have a holiday in August as well. But what I'm going to do is prep this. We're going to go to the desktop. I need to adjust the volume on this. And actually, I'm going to turn up desktop audio. I better not get demonetized. Is this music, lad, free? Or do I skip the music? Do I trust the music? But anyway, let's play this. And let's enjoy it together before we finish.
And welcome to Warzone, the most epic place for this year's festival. This year's festival is bigger and better, and we can't wait to show you what's in store. From the moment you arrive, you'll be immersed in a world of insane drone action. With 5 main flight lines, a social area where you connect with your fellow pilots, this festival is perfect balance between adrenaline and relaxation.
But wait, there's more. There's going to be an on-site FPV store with all the latest gear for all your needs.
We've also got a cache where you can refuel and recharge, and a screen where you can...
Let me start it from here with the audio. Is the music license free? Otherwise, it'll get me demonetized. Right, here we go. I'm going to turn it down my side. Ready. It's copyright free.
Welcome pilots, another year of FPV UK Drone Fest.
Get ready for a 3-day action-packed adventure that's going to leave you buzzing.
And welcome to Warzone, the most epic place for this year's festival.
This year's festival is bigger and better, and we can't wait to show you what's in store.
From the moment you arrive, you'll be immersed in a world of insane drone action.
With 5 main flight lines, a social area where you connect with your fellow pilots, this festival is perfect balance between adrenaline and relaxation.
But wait, there's more. There's going to be an on-site FPV store with all the latest gear for all your needs.
We've also got a cache...
Yeah, it does look low. All right, where they were it. Wait a minute. Let me just...
Welcome pilots, another year of FPV UK Drone Fest.
Here we go.
Get ready for a 3-day action-packed adventure that's going to leave you buzzing.
And welcome to Warzone, the most epic place for this year's festival.
This year's festival is bigger and better, and we can't wait to show you what's in store.
From the moment you arrive, you'll be immersed in a world of insane drone action.
With 5 main flight lines, a social area where you connect with your fellow pilots, this festival is perfect balance between adrenaline and relaxation.
But wait, there's more. There's going to be an on-site FPV store with all the latest gear for all your needs.
We've also got a cache where you can refuel and recharge, and a screen where you can show your epic drone footage for everyone on site.
Plus, we've got plenty of space for you to chill out, charge your lipos and repair your drones.
And if you want to stay on site, we've got a massive field you can camp in. With all the amenities you need for the weekend. We've also got parking available.
But the excitement doesn't stop there. Just like last year, we've got competitions, giveaways and challenges throughout the weekend where you can win some incredible prizes.
And when the sun goes down, we'll head back to the safe zone and we'll showcase all your amazing flights.
It's truly going to be an epic weekend.
Don't just take our word for it. Check out the Facebook page to see what everyone else had to say last year.
And if you're ready to send it, make sure you check out our website for ticket info.
And there's also going to be an early bird sale, so keep your eyes out for that one.
But before you go, make sure you show some love to our amazing sponsor who have provided us with the best products for you to win.
And don't forget to like, comment and share this video with your friends to spread the word about the most epic FPV Drone Fest in the UK.
And thanks for joining us today. We can't wait to see you at FPV Drone Fest.
And make sure to follow all our socials at FPV Drone Fest for the latest updates. I've been Alpha Charlie.
And I've been Go Nuts FPV.
So, that's Drone Fest this year. I can't get it off. Ah. So it's coming up in August. I'm going to try and pop up myself and say hello. There's no chance I'm going to be flying against that lot. it should be a good, like, there's usually a good bunch of people going to this, so I am hoping to go this year as well. So there's no chance of me going up against any of them unless I get on the sticks a lot beforehand. I'll fly a wing through there. Yeah. Right. I'm going to call it a night. I want to say a thank you for staying with us tonight on the stream. As always, thank you to everyone who donated the super chats. Dave, we should be back same time, same place next week. There may be a bit of news. You never know. We're waiting to see what happens with regards to the August situation, and we should have a better picture on the iFlight stuff as well. Anyway, look after yourselves, stay safe, and I will speak to you guys again soon. Also, don't forget to give it a like before you go. Bye-bye.